What is happening? It's the Nintendo Powercast episode 409. I'm your host, N64 Josh. Johnny Bo, what's up?
What's going on? I'm back. I'm sorry to all the listeners that loved me and missed me last week.
We're sorry you love him.
I'm sorry you didn't get my awesome insight.
It's true. We all missed you. We told him to tweet nice things at you. Did anybody?
I get so many tweets because I'm so popular that I don't remember.
Okay. Perfect. Crawler, how's it going, baby?
Hey, how's it going, Crawl? Coming at you.
Cheesy, what's up?
What's going on, cheese curds?
And we have a very special guest, Duane Shoots Toys. What's going on?
What's happening, guys? Happy to be here. Excited to chat with you.
So glad you're here. Before we jump into this, guys, the unofficial, unauthorized history of Mario Kart is now available, and I've kept the sale price going just for you. So I want to say a huge thank you to everybody that's picked it up. I've heard some great feedback from you guys, so thank you. And it's still the bundle, still 50% off. You get the guide, which will teach you how not to swear in Mario Kart, and the art of the Mario Kart sorry. Give you guys a little sneak peek of the Mario Kart sorry. It goes something like this. I'm sorry. No, I'm not. You just kind of whisper it under your breath when you're done. So it's meant for couples to try to save those relationships. So, if you have a significant other, some of the comments I've gotten are like, yo, maybe my boyfriend will play with me again if I can learn how to apologize correctly.
Do we have the art of the yes. Do we have the art of the humble brag where you say good grace after you finish and everybody else is still raising?
Yeah, like you finish and you go good game and they're like, you're already done. So anyway, n64josh.com/history of Mario Kart. It will be a link in the description. And of course, guys, come over into the Discord. We'd love to have you. n64josh.com/discord, also a link in the description. And if you want to get these shows completely ad-free, there is a link to be able to subscribe right in the description as well. So $6.99 a month, you get all the shows ad-free. So there you go. Little quick update on the stream schedule. I am streaming every Monday. We are doing Mario Kart, seeing how many people we can get in there. We got new tracks, new racers, and we've been having a good time. So, Johnny, real quick, where can everybody connect with you and potentially watch your content once you're not working?
Oh man, I can't talk today. That's probably for the best, right?
Yeah.
If you ask Cheesy.
I'm Johnny Bo everywhere. Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. I think that's it.
That's it. Crawler, is there anywhere that you stream?
Twitch, I guess, if I do it, but it's been a while.
Any other places people can connect with you?
TikTok and Twitter, Nightcrawler724, Nightcrawlers without the E.
Got the Lego TikToks going on. It's a good time.
Yeah.
Cheesy,
we'll have more coming up.
Okay, cool. Cheesy, where can people connect with you?
You can find me on TikTok, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, CheezyC64, CheezyC64. And
Duane,
yes,
all the places. Where can we find you?
You can find me at Duane Shoots Toys. Duane is spelled Duane Shoots Toys. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter.
All the places. There are links in the description, guys, for everybody, so you can connect with us there if you would like. And we're just going to kick this off with Duane. We got some gaming stuff that we'll talk about after we take a trip down memory lane and get to hear how Duane got started with Nintendo and then got into this hobby of shooting toys. And I got to say, when I was scrolling his Instagram today to create the IG stories, and I found a picture. Actually, if you click the YouTube video, you're seeing little Duane with a NES. And so kick it off for us. Where did it all start for you?
As far as my Nintendo journey or my toy
just gaming. Yeah, let's start with gaming, and then we'll evolve into the toys as well.
Yeah, so I as I was telling you before we started the stream here, I got into gaming primarily on the NES. I bought my very first game, which was Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, before I actually got my console. and I would go play at my cousin's house. I got all excited, and then finally one day I got my very own Nintendo. And I grew up playing Mega Man, Battletoads, the Ninja Turtles, all those classic 8-bit games. And after that, I kind of skipped the next few consoles. So I didn't get an SNES or, GameCube or N64. I was getting into PC gaming at that time.
Okay.
And then, more recently, I've gotten into the Switch, and I'm pretty heavy on Mario Kart. Been playing a lot of your live streams there, and I love it. It's a big part of my life. And then, more recently, I've gotten into action figure photography, and you can see some of my photos here. A lot of them are based heavily on nostalgia from the 80s and 90s. I try to incorporate themes related to video games, pop culture, sneakers, hip hop, just all the things that I'm personally into. And I'll create little dioramas using my action figures and post them online to share my art.
Thanos and The Price is Right. I am here for it. I'm here for it. That's great.
So
go ahead.
I'm curious as to like how it all started. Like, was there somebody that you saw doing this, or were you like, this is something I think I want to do and try for myself? How did it start?
Yeah, whenever someone asks me this question, I kind of say it was almost like an accident, because I was getting into travel photography. I bought a camera and I wanted to, take photos of outdoor landscapes and exotic locations, that kind of thing. And in the process of learning how to use my camera, I would take photos of just random objects around the house. And one day I stumbled across this YouTube video of someone who was taking photos of toy cars. And I saw that and I was like, wow, this is kind of neat. And then I just went down this little rabbit hole and discovered an entire community of people that were taking photos of toys and action figures. And, I just bought some figures myself, started practicing, trying it out, and it just snowballed from there and took on a life of its own. And now it's basically taken over my life. It's pretty much all I do these days.
And like on some of these, we're seeing lots of posters and stuff. How much of this is printouts and just really, or how much of it are you like doing artwork yourself and recreating stuff?
Yeah, like I'm pretty much, so if you're looking at this scene right now with Mike Tyson, like almost everything in there is something that I've made aside from the figure itself. Like that television, for example, I 3D printed that. And then, I'll print out vintage posters. Like you'll see the Power Glove poster and the Nintendo poster there. I'll just print them out in miniature form. And it's kind of hard to tell just from the photo alone, but this is a 1/6 scale. So the action figure is maybe 12 inches tall. And the Power Glove itself was sculpted out of polymer clay. And I just, print all these little things out and glue them together and create this little scene.
I love the Nintendo Power. I want to go through a few of these because I really, really, especially the Ninja Turtle one. That one was crazy. But like, you got, the detail here is actually, it's insane. And if you guys are only listening, I suggest either going and checking out the YouTube video, or if you're listening or watching on if you're listening on Spotify, the video will be there as well. So
you got the manual, you got the case, you got the sleeve for the NES cartridge, you got the Power Glove manual and the box, and then like that's issue number 1 of Nintendo Power, isn't it?
And the Turtles issue, like, oh my god, that was I wore those magazines out.
I try to put as much detail into the scene as possible. There you'll see I actually have the Tyson code written down there.
Tyson code, I love it. I used to have that memorized.
Yeah. So, and even like on the TV you'll have those the receiver for the Power Glove.
Yep.
So I try to put as many little details in there as possible, and people really seem to appreciate that. And I just love seeing the comments when I post a new photo. People will say, "Oh, this reminds me of when I was 7 years old and when I was a kid." and it puts a smile on a lot of people's faces, which I really love.
So is your little tiny NES there? Is that 3D printed, or is that modeling clay that you painted?
So that one I actually bought from, there's an artist on Instagram called Retrold Tech, and he makes just mini consoles and games and stuff. But yeah, nowadays I'm getting a little bit better with my 3D printing, so I could probably do one of those myself. But I bought a lot of those pieces before I had a 3D printer. But yeah, and here we have Mario in his sneaker closet. So I'm a fan of sneakers as well, so I incorporate a lot of that stuff into my photography too. So this is a closet full of different types of Jordan sneakers
with an NES tucked down there in the corner.
Yeah.
Are they Mario size?
Well, it's kind of interesting because if you look at his feet and then look at the shoes, I'm pretty sure they won't fit him, but yeah, those are all 1/6 scale sneakers.
There they fit him.
There you go. Yeah.
Luigi getting postcarded or whatever they call it.
Posterized.
Yeah.
Postered. Yeah.
Posterized. Yeah.
Posterized. I love how these are just like really fun. I mean, I've never been to the Staples Center, but it looks like that's probably what it would look like.
That's actually what happens. They just have people come out in like Mario costumes, and
that's what they should do. I would pay to see that.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? Like for that floor right there, I actually went into an old NBA video game and went into the instant replay mode and took screenshots of the floor and kind of pasted them together and then printed them out to create the floor.
Wow, so that's screenshots from NBA 2K?
Yeah, from one of those games. Yeah, I just printed them out in miniature form and glued them all together.
That's not a live audience back there.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see Mario dunk Boo now. I'm you know.
Yeah, he's shaped like a basketball.
It's incredible. Like how do you come up with the ideas? Because I imagine, like, is it just a random thought? Is it something that you really plan out? Like, how does that process work?
Yeah, a lot of the photos are based on childhood memories. So I'll be reliving my, experiences as a kid. Sometimes it's more modern, something like I if I go to the shopping mall and I'm looking around and I see something, I'll, kind of make a mental note and, use that concept to plan a future photo. I've got a text file on my computer. Anytime I get an idea, I'll just write the idea down. So I've got tons and tons of ideas. And then I'll just kind of mix and match concepts together. This photo is just kind of a weird concept that I came up with.
So I have a thought in my head as to how you came up with this.
Yeah,
it was a long day. There were some issues in the bathroom, and like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at the Goomba and you think, I mean, I think it was originally based on a shiitake mushroom, but like when I see a Goomba, I see like the poop emoji, right? Like it looks exactly like that. So I figured, you know what? The Mario Brothers are plumbers. The Goombas look like poop. So let's put that all together and make like a giant toilet land or something like that along those lines. So this was a fun project. It took a long time to make because I 3D printed each of those Goombas individually and I painted them. And then the toilets took a long time to print because everything's pretty big in this photo. So it took a long time, but it was fun to put together.
So what is the size? Like, how big is this thing actually? Like, how is it like a small diorama or is it like pretty tall?
Yeah, like every project I work on is different because I've got figures in different scales. Some of the figures are 6 inches tall, some of them are 12 inches tall. In this case,
I have a paratrooper. I think this is probably the same model scale.
Okay, yeah. So that's from the same brand. I'm assuming that's the Jack specific company. But so these Mario figures are actually smaller. These are the 2.5 inch figures. So in this particular photo, so this whole thing it was a few feet wide by a few feet long, like maybe 3-4 feet. That's pretty much it. Sometimes, like for that basketball photo, I was using one of the larger figures that's in the same scale as that paratrooper that you're showing there. But I've got maybe 4 or 5 different Mario figures of different sizes, and depending on the concept that I come up with, I'll pick and choose one. Generally, I like to work with larger figures because it allows me to put more detail into the props when I'm making them. But in a situation like this, I wanted to make a big landscape, so I had to work with smaller figures just to make it work.
Do you have a storage shed just loaded with all your old, like, after you get done with one of these? Is it just...
Yeah, well, the dioramas themselves, like they're almost like temporary dioramas. So I'll build them up and then take them apart as soon as they're done.
Oh, no.
And then I'll just hang on to the pieces that I think I may use in the future, like the little props and stuff, right? But a lot of like the walls and the floors, I kind of either, they're made out of paper, so I can just recycle them afterwards. There's no way I'd be able to keep all of that stuff because I live in a small 1-bedroom apartment. There's just no space for it. But I keep all the major props that I think I might use in the future, and I've got tons of storage bins. I just put everything in there. My whole, like, I used to have a living room, but I don't have a living room anymore. It's just basically a workshop. So it's just all like 3D printers and paint and all kinds of stuff, and then action figures and props. So it's taken over my life completely.
Are the arcade games here, are they something you made, or is that something you picked up?
No, so this was, I guess, a sort of a sponsored post. There's a company called New Wave Games, or New Wave Toys, and they make these actual functioning arcades that are 1/6 scale. And they sent me a few of them, and they said, come up with a concept that will demonstrate our product. So this was around Halloween, and I said, okay, you know what? Let me just take all these horror movie icons and put them together and have them playing the arcade game there.
I think I've seen them in Target. Also, you absolutely nailed the floor of that arcade.
I was going to say the floor. Where did you Google that and just print it out, or did you have to? Because I remember walking on carpet like that.
Yeah, that was like the standard issue carpet for pretty much every arcade in the world. It seems like back in the day. I did some Googling and I found some images and I just put them together and printed them out, and yeah, it looks fairly authentic to that era.
I think what's great about your photos, like this one, I love this Scarface photo. For those that are listening, it's Scarface playing Duck Hunt, and you also have like this element of like, I wonder what it would be like if Scarface was playing Duck Hunt, and you get to like mess around with your imagination that way. And I love that you have, those little stories that you get to tell.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I probably enjoy doing the most, just doing these crossover mashup type of ideas where you take 2 different worlds and bring them together. The Scarface is a very serious, like dark, violent movie, and then you mix it up with Duck Hunt, right? And it's just like a interesting juxtaposition of themes there. And this photo is obviously based on a scene when he's pointing a gun at someone, and just figured, let me take that gun and replace it with a Nintendo Zapper, and that ended up turning into this piece right here.
Is there a pile of Coke somewhere that, like, you took the adult picture that the?
Yeah, there may have been a small pile of
flour or something.
Yeah.
That's why it's so close, right? You don't want to show the whole.
Yeah, I cropped it in pretty close.
Yeah.
So, real quick, Crawler, can you go back? Yeah. So, just for example, what is all the stuff that you did? Because I know that sometimes you'll take an action figure and you'll actually like mess around with that too. Like it looks different than the way that you bought it.
Yeah. So this is actually a custom figure. The only thing I bought for that figure was I bought the head. So if you go on eBay and search for 1/6 scale heads, you can find heads of all kinds of superheroes, celebrities, athletes, stuff like that. So I just bought the Scarface head and then put it on a generic body, and then found the clothing, and then just put it all together and made a custom piece. And then I added some blood, and I custom made that little brace that he has on his arm. And so we just put it together to make a custom figure. And I 3D printed the gun and the cartridges and printed out the boxes. And that Nintendo console was the one that I had from that retro tech from before. And the walls and the table, and the floor, they're all made out of foam board. And then I just covered the foam board with some printed out designs to give it some color.
It's so incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got Deadpool up next, looks like, right?
Yeah. So I think it's in the opening scene of Deadpool where he's listening to Shoop by Salt and Pepper. So I just had this scene here of him listening to that song with the CD booklet in his hand, and you have that classic bright yellow Sony Discman, the sports edition.
Oh yeah.
And I just put out
anti-skip,
Yeah, anti-skip. I was thinking the same thing.
Anti-skip. Some of those had the bass boost, and then I just printed out a bunch of different posters and made some little CDs. A lot of those CDs are actually some of the CDs that I listened to as a kid. Like that Ace of Base was one of the first ones that I had. The Dr. Dre, the Chronic.
Yo, dude, we definitely grew up at the same time.
We got a Game Boy on the floor too with Zelda and
it was a
Mortal
Game Boy
Kombat.
Zelda. So I just like tossing in like random references to like this time period. So this is like early to mid 90s. They're all just references to different things from that era.
Did you by chance ever play Mortal Kombat on Game Boy?
Not on Game Boy. I didn't have a Game Boy. I actually had a Game Gear when that came out. So I had Mortal Kombat for that system. But
so you hated batteries then, right?
Was that?
You hated batteries? You just wanted to chew them out?
There's no way I could have played that with the batteries. I had to buy the battery pack and use that because it took 8, I think, AA batteries to power that.
Weren't they using like C cells in that thing?
It was AA's, but it only lasted about 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And I mean, all those batteries add a lot of weight to the console too, right? So it was just like, oof, crazy. So I had to use the battery pack for that.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat on Game Boy is I played it because I was like, hey, I'm on the school bus and this is a video game. I will definitely play it. So
on this we got Biggie Smalls
good.
not Biggie. That is Biggie.
That's Biggie. Yeah. So this is actually a reference to the lyrics from one of his songs. He says, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, when I was dead broke, man, I couldn't picture this. So I have him shopping for Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis games. And in the music video, I think they have a little clip from Street Fighter. They're playing Street Fighter 2. So that's the box that he's holding in his hand right there.
Very cool.
So are all of these boxes that you can take off the wall?
Yeah.
Wow.
This was one of my more time-consuming projects. And when I'm doing something like this, it's not necessarily hard. It's just time-consuming, right? So I just printed out, I don't even know how many. I think it was probably 100.
You got like 2 or 3 deep on some of these shelves, it looks like.
Yeah,
too.
so pretty much every shelf has 2 copies of the game on there. I did that just for some added realism. It's a subtle detail, but it just adds a little bit more realism to it.
Is that Mario art down there?
Yeah, and you'll notice
Paint.
those boxes are a little bit bigger too, right? So the boxes
got the mouse pad.
Yeah, the Mario Paint. I think there's Earthbound, Enforcers. Yeah, those boxes were bigger than the standard boxes, so I made sure to make them bigger in the scene. But yeah, so when I'm doing something like this, like I'm just sitting there cutting and pasting and folding for like hours every day for multiple days at a time.
Is that just a heavier cardstock that you can then have hold shape pretty well?
Yeah, I used matte photo paper. So it's big, photo paper without the gloss finish on it. And I just print it out and fold it together, glue it all together. And usually what I'll do is I'll turn on like a podcast or some YouTube video or a TV show and just watch it and then sit there crafting all day long, passing the time. It's not hard, but it's just very tedious.
We got Donald Trump soccer up here.
He does kind of look like Trump, doesn't he? With the blonde hair. But yeah, so I'll just like go back and forth picking different generations. Like I personally wasn't a big Super Nintendo guy. I was at this time I was kind of getting more into PC gaming. But I know, a lot of my friends had Super Nintendo, and this was like a super popular system with a lot of people. So I just figured this would be a fun project to do. And I love the song too. It's
Do the people ever call you out on anything? Like, well, actually, that box wouldn't have been around at the same time.
Yeah, sometimes I try my best to keep it as accurate to the time period, but sometimes I miss up. Like, if I'm making like 100 boxes, I'm gonna make some mistakes here and there, right? So it's fun. It's funny to see those comments. They're like, "Oh yeah, this is incorrect," right?
I just
But,
noticed
feeding the engagement. That's all you're doing.
The green
yeah,
stickers.
yeah. I don't mind. Like sometimes, people will actually get into arguments in the comments, and I just kind of sit back and let them do their thing because it's just feeding the engagement, like you said, right? It's funny just to watch people go back and forth and have little debates about meaningless things in an action figure diorama. But yeah,
Oh, I've got a pro tip for you.
yeah.
Any of those comments, the best way to reply?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Because they don't know your tone. It's text, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one way or another, they are coming back because they're like, yeah, this was this, and you're like, cool, really? You just say it again. Like I just go until they're like, do you have anything else to say? I'm like, I really don't. I was just farming engagement.
So with this photo, you said it took a while, and like before we started recording, you said that most of your projects take 7 to 10 days.
Yeah.
How long did this one take?
See, I'm not really keeping track when I'm working on things. Like the problem is like when I'm making a project, a lot of times I'll want to document it too, like recording video and stuff, and that really slows down the process because I got to set up my cameras and think about how I'm going to tell the story. So I'd imagine this was probably about 7 to 10 days of actual work. But then when you're setting up the the cameras and all that, it kind of slows it down. So it's hard to really gauge. Like I lose track of time. I'm just
so are you talking like work days, like 8 hours a day, or are you talking?
Yeah, pretty much. Like because like you got to think I have to plan things out. Like as far as how I'm going to set up the scene, I got to think about the sizing of things. Like if you look in the background, I have a bunch of TVs there, right? So I 3D printed all of those, and that takes a while, and you got to measure things and make sure it's the right size. It's going to fit in the scene. And then just finding the box art for all those games, that took a long time, right? You got to, find all those things, print them out. And like I have the older consoles on there. Some of those are pretty difficult to find pictures of. And a little tip for you, if you're looking to make miniature boxes, one of the things I would do is I would go on eBay and look for listings of old like Genesis consoles. And often they have photos of the boxes from all these different angles. So I take those photos and then kind of manipulate them and edit them into making these little printable templates. And then I would print them out and make boxes out of them. So a big part of the time is just finding all the artwork and the images for the scene.
So how long have you been doing this now?
I started in early 2018. And at that time, I wasn't even an action figure collector at the time. I was, like I said before, I just stumbled into it because I was getting into travel photography. And so I had to basically learn everything. I didn't know anything about building dioramas or props. I just started and dove into it by watching YouTube tutorials. And so I started, 2018, and I started initially working with clay a lot to sculpt things. And then when the pandemic hit, that's when I really got heavy into 3D printing. I got my first 3D printer, and that completely changed the game for me, made things a lot easier, and allowed me to make props that are of higher quality and higher detail. And I have a lot to learn. I'm still in the process of learning. I'm figuring things out as I go. So I still feel like I'm pretty early in the process. I'm developing my skills as a painter. That's one of the hardest things now. Is I want to start creating more of my own action figures, and just learning how to paint them and painting the faces to look realistic is pretty challenging to do. So I've been trying to do that over the last year or so, and it's been just constantly developing these skills and trying out new techniques.
Yeah, I saw one of your more recent things was you scanned and 3D printed your own face to add yourself into. Because, do you want to tell us about the experience that you had? Then I guess it got cut out of the final cut, right? But
yeah. So the Last of Us, the TV show, they were filming up here in Alberta, where I live, and they were going all over the province, just going to different locations. And one day, some of my friends sent me a link to a website where they had this casting call for background extras, and I just they were looking for people with a weathered look. So I just figured at that time I had long hair. I still do, but my hair was long and I had the beard going and everything. And I just said, you know what, I probably have a chance at this. Let me just send them a photo and see what happens. And I sent it a photo, and they picked me to be a background extra. And I was one of the fireflies in that final episode. And so yeah, I went up to
Were
it.
You
No spoilers, Johnny.
Oh yeah. By the way, have you guys watched the show? Or
I have, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I'm just thinking like how that last episode played out with the fireflies.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, in the final episode, I didn't actually end up making it into the show. So with the being a background extra, there's no guarantee at all that you'll be on camera, right? You're just kind of there just to fill in a little bit of space in the background. Often you're not even really visible, like you're kind of blurry, like a blurry blob in the back. You're just adding a bit of atmosphere, right? So we had, I think, about 15 people that were background fireflies in that episode. And I think two or three of them made it into the show. And then the other fireflies were like stuntmen, like professional stuntmen. But the background extras, a lot of them got cut out, right? Unfortunately. But yeah, it was a crazy experience. Like it's a really big budget show, right? HBO has a ton of money, and they actually kept us there for 6 days, 15 people. They were feeding us, paying us to be there, and most of us didn't even make it in the episode, which is kind of crazy. So so I took that scenario, which is kind of a disappointing thing. You go there expecting to be on TV, and then you don't end up in the show. I took that and kind of tried to make lemonade out of lemons, and I built a diorama to reimagine the show as if I was in it. So like you were saying earlier, I did a 3D scan of my face and then 3D printed my own little action figure, and dressed it up in the Firefly outfit, and then built a little diorama based on the episode and put myself in there, along with Pedro Pascal's character, looking like he's about to
hunt
me down and put an end to my life. But
yeah. So is this what you do as you're like living? Like you?
Yeah, I do this full time. I don't have a job. It's been very challenging, like to make it work financially. But now I'm starting to get a little bit of stability. It's been I've had to supplement my income with a lot of other things. I get income through music royalties. Before I was doing this, I was involved in music production, so I have a little bit of income through that and a few other sources that kind of help me sort of scrape by. But now it's starting to stabilize a little bit. So it's primarily brand deals and sponsorships that help me pay my bills. And I want to focus a lot more on YouTube too, to generate income through there, just to make it a little bit stable and get into Patreon and all that. But this is pretty much what I do all day long. I'm at home just crafting all day long.
Duane is being so humble because I think you have a big following. Not only that, you have a platinum record. You've done it all, and like I'm just excited to see what you do next. Do you have like big plans that you want to share? That like what's the big picture goal for you?
You know what? I'm just kind of taking it day by day and playing it by ear. At the end of the day, my main goal is just to be able to wake up, not have to worry about how I'm going to pay my bills, be financially stable, and just create whatever I want to create. I love coming up with random concepts and videos and dioramas and all this kind of stuff, and just sharing what's in my head with my following. So I would love to also eventually have my own line of action figures or something, diorama pieces, something along those lines. That would be fun.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I want to do. It's just kind of taking it day by day and figuring it out, going with the flow.
You've got quite the collection behind you, and it may not necessarily be Nintendo, but the toys were definitely, I mean, this show is fueled on nostalgia, right? So like the one of the photos that you had showed Splinter with the turtles, and they were playing the arcade game, or I saw the arcade game on the table, right? The Turtles arcade game, and that was one of my all-time favorite like games. I could play that game over and over and over again. The first time, I've said it on the show many times, the first time I saw the sun come up playing games, it was that game. I would beat it with one turtle and just start over and do it again. And we had an unlimited supply of soda in the fridge next to us, and we were in a garage where we couldn't be too loud for parents. And it was just it was like the perfect weekend scenario in the late 80s, early 90s, right? And so, but you said you started doing this in 2018, right? The collecting, or did you have some of the collection before that?
When I was a kid, I had a ton of toys, lots of action figures and all that. But when I turned, 14, 15, we basically got rid of everything. And, I kind of stopped collecting toys. I was getting into other things. I was getting to music and stuff at that time. So I didn't have anything when I started doing this. And I started at, it was age 36. So I basically had to start building a collection from scratch at that point. So all the stuff that I have is pretty much new. I just acquired. I mean,
tell us about that journey. I mean, you've got turtles in the boxes back there. Like, are these eBay things? Do you go? I was recently in Vegas. They've got a shop there in Fremont that's like all the old, like you can see a Technodrome in the box from Playmates. Like I saw Slash and some other like Mondo Gecko and some of the other turtles and stuff that were like not necessarily as well known, but I'm like, well, every time my parents took me grocery shopping, I got at least one or two Turtles action figures, and I still have the majority of them in my garage right now. Like there's just a massive bin full of, I got Scumbug whose jaw opens and closes and it usually falls off, so it's somewhere in the mix as well. But like, are these just eBay purchases, or do you get to do a little, a little adventuring out and hitting up retro cons and things like that?
Well, the cool thing is, like, right now is a great time to be someone who was born in the 80s or 90s as far as collecting toys, because a lot of these companies are reissuing new versions of these old toys. So these are all like reissues. These were just released like the past year.
I gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, they packaged them to look exactly like they did back in the day. So you got Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, He-Man, all those classic properties. They're just bringing them back. So if you just go to like Walmart, you can find those things on the shelves, which is so exciting, right? And I'm kind of fortunate now to be in a position where a lot of these companies will just send the stuff to me. So those ones I got from the local Canadian distributor of the Ninja Turtles toys. So I get a lot of toys for free, which is one of the perks of doing what I do. But for some of the toys that are a little bit more difficult to find, I'm definitely going on eBay, Amazon, all those different toy stores websites and ordering them. The thing is, a lot of these, especially the higher end toys, they only make limited amounts of them, so they're very difficult to get once they're sold out. So you have to go on eBay, get them secondhand, and sometimes they'll sell at a premium. So you might buy them initially at $50 retail, and then they'll be selling secondhand for $100, right? So it's a limited edition kind of market. So you got to try to get the figures that you want as soon as they come out. Otherwise, you're gonna have to pay a premium to get them.
Oh yeah, as an amiibo collector, I have paid way too much for a few in my collection, but mainly the squid kids or whatever, the inklings, like they were they were way too much.
It's
but
Cheesy's fault. Blame that on Cheesy.
I think you're right. Do you have any holy grails in your collection that you're like, something that maybe you had as a kid that you loved that you were able to then get again? Are there any that you're looking forward that you're, still on the hunt for, but maybe you don't want to spend, too much on eBay and you just want to see if you can find it as you do some cons or anything like that?
Not really. Like it's interesting because I do have a collection of toys, but I don't necessarily consider myself too much of a collector. Like a lot of the toys I'll just buy solely for the purpose of creating art with them. So sometimes
tax write-off,
You need a tax accountant? I got you.
Yeah.
Maybe not Canada.
Sometimes I'll actually quite often I'll buy some figures and then I'll use them in a scene and I'll hang on to them for a few months and then I'll sell them, get some of my money back, and then buy new figures with that money, right? So it's just there's a constant flow of figures. But some of these ones are more like vintage looking figures, so I like hanging on to them just for the nostalgia sake. You might remember some of these McDonald's toys.
As soon as I saw them, I was like, oh my god, those are taking me back.
These ones I hung on to them. Actually,
is that like those are pullback ones, right?
This particular one, this is like a Luigi that kind of drives on the table there. But
if I remember correctly, was that around the Super Mario Brothers 3 era of McDonald's toys? Yeah, that's what
that was my most memorable Happy Meal toy, and I got a bunch of them. Like this was the most. I guess,
yes,
I remember those.
Yep. I don't know if you saw it, but on my page, I made a miniature version of this a few months ago, and I've actually let's see here. I've got some miniature versions of these toys right here. I don't know if you can really see, but
oh wow,
I 3D scanned them and 3D printed them. So I'm gonna use them in an upcoming diorama. I was planning to have the Ninja Turtles eating Happy Meals at McDonald's and playing with the toys there, and that's pure nostalgia for me because I remember being a kid and like when Super Mario Brothers 3 came out, there was so much hype around it because if you remember the Wizard movie when they first announced that game, it was just like I don't know, kids were going crazy over it and
the first Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
The first movie that was just a commercial.
Yeah, so that was such an exciting time for me. So that has a lot of nostalgic value and meaning to me. So I guess if you could say I had grails, those kind of things would be it. I guess just they're not necessarily expensive, but they're just meaningful to me, right? Because it brings me back to that time period in my life.
Absolutely. Yeah, you must have been a relatively big fan of Battletoads. I see a poster behind you there.
Yeah, that's actually from Nintendo Power magazine.
Okay.
I loved Battletoads. It was very difficult for me at the time. Like, I don't know. Even if I were to play it now, I'm sure I'd had difficulty playing it. But I loved that game.
Sleds, man. Those sleds.
Yeah, level 3. I remember that. It was it was tough.
It was the dam with the turtles and the sleds with the Battletoads. Like.
Yeah,
they did not want you beating those games in a weekend.
Yeah, so yeah, Battletoads and Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. Those were probably my two favorites that I put a lot of hours into.
And then, is that a Tupac Lego behind you?
Yeah, I made that. I made a video maybe last month showing how I 3D printed that and painted it and all that. So custom Lego figure.
That's amazing.
So with your 3D print, are you pretty self-taught with all your 3D printing? And like, has that grown for you? Are you using more than one printer now, or is it?
Yeah.
How's that working for you?
I taught myself just by watching videos online, and like I said earlier, it was mainly during the pandemic that I started getting into it. So I've got 3 printers right now, different types. I've got just a standard FDM printer, which uses filament. And then I also have a resin printer that uses resin for, it's great for making highly detailed small items. So yeah, a lot of the items. The cool thing about 3D printing is that there are tons of people that upload 3D models online. So you can download models and then print them without having any kind of 3D modeling experience. So I started off doing a lot of that, and now more recently I got into 3D scanning. So I have some 3D scanners that I can use to scan objects, and then 3D print them so you get any kind of custom object you want. So it's been a lot of fun, and then like it's really changed the game for me as far as making props. It's been fantastic.
That's cool.
For anyone that is wanting to get into toy photography, do you have any advice for them, or something that you know now that you wish you would have when you started?
Yeah, I mean, like it just comes down to practice, basically. You know, you don't need fancy equipment to get started these days. You know, the cameras on your cell phone are decent, right? So you can do a lot with that. A lot of people are posting content online that show you how to, you know, set up your lights and how to build diorama pieces and all that. So you can teach yourself if you just take the time to learn. And my advice for people that are looking to really grow their following is to try to be as unique as you can, because there's a lot of other, you know, people doing toy photography out there, but the ones that stand out are the ones that are like being their authentic selves, being unique and coming with a different perspective. So I would really say, you know, try to find like a unique style or you know, theme, and then just go heavy, double down on that, and you know, put your stuff out there.
I was going to get into it when Halo Infinite started coming out. I have such a huge collection of Halo action figures and some of the big vehicles that are. It's really hard to store some of these things. The Mantis from Halo is like, it's impossible to store that thing. So
do you have
it's
like
almost as bad as Labo.
too?
What's that? Oh yeah, I've got warthogs. I think I've got a ghost, quite a few, yeah, and a bunch of the different figures, whether it be Spartans or brutes and all that kind of stuff. Like, because they're super detailed. I'm like, these would be really cool. I even talked with a buddy about maybe doing it together, and then it just kind of fizzled, unfortunately. But
yeah,
but they're all, you know, they're all sitting here.
yeah.
Did you ever?
Sorry.
Did you ever have a project that was scrapped because you just didn't like the way it looked, or you couldn't get it the way that you imagined?
Normally I try to follow through on my projects, but sometimes I don't necessarily post everything that I do. Like nowadays I do, but like earlier on, you know, when I was working, you know, just learning, I would take a lot of photos, and you know, some of them weren't as good as the others, so I wouldn't necessarily post everything. But a lot of that is just me being, you know, too much of a perfectionist or being too picky with things. But yeah, I try to follow through. I don't scrap a lot of my projects.
Sorry, I cut you off. What were you saying?
I can't remember. I was probably just saying. I was probably just going to say the cool thing is that nowadays there's just, I mean, there's so much content out there that can teach you how to do toy photography if you want to. So many YouTube videos and TikTok videos and all that, because there's actually a fairly decently sized community of people doing it. There's, you know, thousands of toy photographers out there, and everyone has like a slightly different style. I think a lot of people try to recreate scenes from video games or movies. My style is more based on nostalgia and just my childhood and stuff, but there's something out there for everyone.
What I wanted to go back even further with your gaming history, like mainly because like I started on the Atari, and I was just curious if that is kind of, did your love for gaming start with those older home consoles in the arcade, or was Nintendo where it began?
I did have a couple of other consoles. Like Nintendo was the main one that really got me into it, but we had a ColecoVision, which I played briefly. So I think we had maybe 2 or 3 games on that. I was quite young at the time, so I don't remember too much. But
yeah,
you know, we had Donkey Kong and, you know, Ladybug and those kind of games.
Yeah.
And I had a Commodore 64. I got really into that personal computer. I remember one day my dad brought home a whole case of like pirated discs, like those 5 1/4 discs. They're all pirated games, and I played that like for years. Tons and tons of games on there, like California games, summer games, those like sports type of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the foundation, and then the Nintendo, I really got into that. Later on, I got into like PC gaming. I don't know if you remember. I sent you that photo of Superman in the office there, playing PC games. So on the shelf, I put a lot of boxes of games that I was into. So things like Duke Nukem 3D. I was into Police Quest, Space Quest, King's Quest, those kind of adventure games. So I got into PC gaming, and then I got a Game Gear, and I didn't get too heavily into, like I said, the N64 and those consoles, but so there you can see there were a bunch of games that I played, Police Quest and Doom,
TIE Fighter.
Yeah,
SimCity.
World of Warcraft, Warcraft when it was still an RTS.
Yeah, those older games from that time period.
SimCity 2000.
It was kind of cool.
The Windows for Dummies.
Yeah,
this is it's interesting because I have an office job, and like this, it looks from the 90s, but it could be the exact same thing today. Just with a different computer.
Yeah.
And people cosplaying at work.
I don't know if you remember.
That's what I do.
Encarta, Microsoft Encarta, the encyclopedia. I got that on the desk there. Now, this was like before the World Wide Web had really taken off. We get our knowledge from CD-ROM encyclopedias, and so this is like it was kind of an exciting time because computers hadn't really gone super mainstream yet. It was almost not like a underground thing, but there was like a tightly knit community of people that liked playing computer games and messing around with stuff at that time. So I was really heavily into that stuff at that time. And then beyond that, after that, I started getting more into music, so I didn't really play as much games. But then my younger brother, who's he's about 8 years younger than me, he got into the PlayStation and the Xbox and all that. But then more recently, I started getting into the Switch, and been playing a lot of that.
I gotta know, did you pick up the Cowabunga collection?
I didn't, just because I haven't had that much time to really play too many games, but it looks exactly like what we played back in the day on the Nintendo. I definitely want to try, because you can play online multiplayer with that, right? Like
a handful of games, yes.
Yeah, that would be so much fun.
Yeah, including the 4-player arcade game, which was back in the day, that was that thing ate some serious quarters from me. So
that game, and then like X-Men, and then the Simpsons. There was like a whole bunch of great 4-player games that we'd play at the arcade.
Yeah, good times. Well, tell us a little bit about, are you still doing music? Is that something that's still a passion of yours? And I'm curious, I heard platinum album, like let's give us the scoop here.
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't made any new music in a long time. It's been at least 2 or 3 years, but I definitely want to get back into it at some point. I started when I was around 16, 17. Just I'm a beat maker. I don't sing or rap or do anything like that. I just make beats basically. And for a long time, maybe 8-9 years, that was like my career. I would make beats and then sell them online, and we licensed a lot of music to television shows. So if you listen to or if you're watching some of those reality shows, you'll hear like just generic hip hop beats in the background. That's the kind of stuff that we would provide. And sometimes on like sports broadcasts, when they're showing highlight clips, you'll hear music in the background. That's the kind of things that we would. I was working with a friend of mine. We would provide music for. So I did that, and then as far as the platinum record, that I don't know if you can see it there. That was for an artist named Little TJ. He's a rapper, and I co-produced a song for him. So basically, it's kind of an interesting story because I was just improvising a melody on my keyboard one day, and I posted an Instagram story of myself doing that, just messing around. And one of my friends, who is a music producer as well, he heard the melody and he's like, "Oh, well, that's pretty cool. Can I use that for something?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So I sent him that little melody, and then he made a beat around it, and then put it online. And then eventually, this artist, little TJ, heard it and made a song out of it. And they eventually did a remix with Lil Wayne as well, and they put out a music video and everything. And the song went platinum. I think it blew up primarily because of TikTok, because a lot of people were using the song in their videos, and has like, I don't know, 100,000 different videos of people making TikToks with it. And yeah, it blew up. So it was kind of a pleasant surprise. And you know, I do incorporate a fair bit of music themed stuff into my photography. So because of that, I've built up an audience, or a bunch of followers that are in the music industry. So it's kind of cool, because I think eventually I'm going to, you know, do a little bit of networking through social media, and then get back into music that way. And I definitely, it'll always be a part of my life in some way, and I definitely want to get back into it more heavily in, you know, the next few years or so.
That's incredible. I love it. That's great. Super cool. Well, we're just about at that hour mark, and we'll touch on the game stuff that we need to talk about next week after we got what we're gonna be playing. I know Cheesy's picking up the new. It's not called Bayonetta, but it's
Cereza and the Lost Demon.
Yeah.
Last Demon. I think it's Lost. I don't know. I played the demo. It was real good.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, check the demo out, you guys, if you want. I forgot to mention that I have built a podcast completely with AI. And so if any of you struggle falling asleep, and you don't mind falling asleep to a robot,
she doesn't sound like a robot, though.
It doesn't.
Wait, so it's not you? Like I would use it if it was Josh speaking in my ear for me to sleep.
No, you know, it is a female AI named Bella, and I lower the speed of her voice by 5%. The stories are written by AI, and then I copy the text into this other AI, and it spits out, and you can change how the voice sounds. So she takes breaths, and like, you know, the pacing is not, it's a little bit robotic, a tiny bit, but anyway, it's called A Fan of Sleep podcast. There's also, I took about a $1,700 microphone and recorded a fan and EQ'd it so that it's brown noise. So it's supposed to help you sleep better. Well, I took that 12 hours and also put that on the same podcast with no talking. So if you're ever
between white noise and brown noise,
apparently it's just the way it's just frequencies. Like, I think there's less high end in brown noise. And so I guess pink noise is another one that's supposed to help you sleep as well. So anyway, I've researched it some, but it's called A Fan of Sleep. And like I said, it's all robots. I'm currently working on some guided meditations with it, and so I'm having a pretty good time just producing, right? But it's like they don't ever talk back; they just do as they're told, and so, you know, check that out. It needs some reviews on iTunes and stuff, you guys, if it's something that can help you fall asleep. I've created fun little stories around this cat named Luna, who goes on adventures at night, and they're just very relaxing, and she watches otters swim and all that kind of stuff. So wow. It's a lot of fun. I'm having a great time with it. So that's A Fan of Sleep. Again, the links for everybody's socials will be in the description. Make sure to give Duane a follow, keep his momentum going on YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff. And we appreciate you guys so much. Duane, thank you for being here. We really do appreciate it. And we will see you guys in the next one. Bye, everybody.